All right, welcome to part 2 of the Business Plans That Work book reading. This is going to be by Jeffrey A. Timmons, Andrew Zakarakis, and Stefan Spinelli. So in this one, we are going to be reading Chapter 1 of the book. This is the second video in the series, Entrepreneurs Create the Future. We are in the midst of a silent revolution, a triumph of the creative and entrepreneurial spirit of humankind throughout the world. I believe its impact on the 21st century will equal or exceed that of the Industrial Revolution on the 19th and 20th. Jeffrey A. Timmons, The Entrepreneurial Mind, 1989. So that's also one of the authors of the book. He's quoting himself. Entrepreneurship runs deep in the American psyche. Many of today's heroes are celebrated for their entrepreneurial achievements. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Sam Walton, and Arthur Blank, among others, have created businesses that are household names: Microsoft, Apple Computers, Walmart, and Home Depot. Whereas people entering the workforce in the 1960s and 1970s sought larger corporations and job security, people entering the workforce today are seeking younger entrepreneurial firms or even launching their own ventures. If America has learned anything in the last 20 years, it's that job security is a myth, and to succeed, people need to be creative in designing their careers. That means seeking jobs that build your skill set and position you to start your own business at some future point. For those of you reading the book, the time may be now. You're not alone in your entrepreneurial dreams. 22 million of your fellow Americans are in the process of launching a business or own a business less than 4 years old. Ultimately, the most rewarding and satisfying careers are those which are created for oneself. Create a company rather than a job. Babson College, along with the London Business School, has spearheaded the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor GEM project, which tracks the rate of entrepreneurship across 40 countries. Entrepreneurship is defined as any attempt to create a new business. The best estimates of the entrepreneurial activity rate for adults aged 18 to 74 in 1993 was around 4%. After peaking at around 16.7% during the internet boom in 2000, the rate dropped to 10.5% in 2002, which was still over twice the level of activity since 1993. In 2003, the activity rate improved to 11.9%. However, not every entrepreneur succeeds in launching a business, and the only 40% of launched businesses survive longer than 6 years. This book is designed to help you get beyond the pre-launch stage, navigate the new business stage, and ultimately grow into a sustainable enterprise that is both personally and financially rewarding. This chapter provides a background on the state of entrepreneurship in the United States, showing which firms beat the failure rule and why. The chapter continues with an overview of attributes that successful people possess. And next, the chapter illustrates when ideas are opportunities and provides a framework called the Timmons Model. Entrepreneurship in America. To understand what works and what doesn't work, it's useful to examine who entrepreneurs are. We can think of entrepreneurs as falling into different categories based on the stage of development of their businesses. Nascent entrepreneurs are individuals in the pre-launch mode. They have yet to pay themselves or any employees a salary. New business owners are entrepreneurs with paid salaries and whose business is less than 4 years old. A critical phase in entrepreneurship. Once the business has survived and reached positive cash flow, usually by the 4th year at the latest, the business is closing in on being a sustainable enterprise, and the entrepreneur's tasks move toward building on the foundation he or she has laid. Since 1999, we have defined entrepreneurial active adults as 18 to 64 years old, as many people beyond 64 years are retired. To learn more about the GEM project and read past reports, go to http://gemconsortium.org/default.asp. So just for reference, this book was published in, I'm trying to see when This book was published just to see how far back the data goes. This book is published copyright 2004, so we basically capped at 2003. I know, like, the dot-com boom had a lot of entrepreneurial activity, and then there was a crash and things slowed down. But lately, in the last few years, we've seen a rise in entrepreneurship again, and to a much greater level than ever before, really. So let's continue. Nascent entrepreneurs are individuals who report that they are taking steps towards launching a business, but have not yet paid themselves or anybody else in the organization a salary or a wage. In 2002, 7% of the adult population was in the process of launching a business. 1 in 14 adults. Men are more likely to be nascent entrepreneurs than women are, 1.5 men for every woman. But the rate of women becoming entrepreneurs has been accelerating in the last decade. Entrepreneurs are people of all ages, but most are between 18 and 44. They tend to be college educated, but there are many who have not finished high school as well. As you can see from the demographics, entrepreneurship isn't confined to the highly educated men, but is an encompassing phenomenon in the United States. There are times in a person's life when it becomes more likely that he will pursue entrepreneurship, the mid-30s, but exceptions to that rule abound. Colonel Sanders was in his 60s when he launched Kentucky Fried Chicken, and Bill Gates was a teenager when he launched Microsoft. We often describe entrepreneurship as the art and craft of the creative, the unexpected, and the exceptional. The inspiration, if you will, may strike at any time in your life as long as you are open to seeing new opportunities. Not all nascent entrepreneurs launch their businesses successfully. Many discover in this pre-launch stage that the business isn't viable, but for any number of reasons. For instance, the opportunity may not be large enough for a person to leave an existing job. You need to be confident that the business can grow to a level where you will be able to pay yourself a good salary compared with what you are making now. Moreover, you must recognize that it typically takes 2 or more years to approach revenue figures that make that earning potential possible. There are opportunity costs to pursuing an entrepreneurial venture, and other flaws may become apparent in the pre-launch phase. You may learn that you lack the skills necessary to be successful, and so you may postpone your dream while you seek jobs that will build that skill set. Entrepreneurs invariably find it difficult to raise the necessary capital, and less determined individuals will abandon their plans. The critical thing is the learning curve. New and old businesses make mistakes, some of which may lead to failure, but successful entrepreneurs manage mistakes better. Successful entrepreneurs recognize that learning events help them reshape the opportunity so that it better meets customer needs. The business planning process can help you compress, and create those learning curves and move from nascent entrepreneurs to business owner. Business planning will save you considerable amounts of time and money by helping you understand and anticipate the obstacles that all entrepreneurs face in launching a business. In articulating in the business plan the nature of the opportunity and the way you will exploit it, you have to answer many of the real-life questions you ultimately will face in practice. Indeed, your immersion in writing a great business plan will carry over into the execution of that plan. You will build a textured awareness of the market and ways to attack it. In essence, writing a great plan provides the momentum to be a great entrepreneur, but the plan is not the business. Even if you launch your business successfully, not all business owners will survive. Traditionally, the failure rate for the new business has progressed as follows: 23% fail within 2 years, 52% fail within 4, and 63% fail within 6 years. Although these numbers hold over time, they vary by industry and company type. We believe that you can move these percentages in your favor by gaining a deep understanding of your capabilities as a leader, founder, what it will take for the business to succeed, and how to create ways to make this happen. Business planning is part of the process. It is a useful tool for understanding the potential, the risk, and the payoff for a particular opportunity. The potential, the risks, and the payoffs. Sustainable organizations. Who are the survivors? What new businesses ultimately make the transition into sustainable business mode? The odds for survival and a higher level of success change dramatically if the venture reaches a critical mass of at least 10 to 20 people with $2 million to $3 million in revenues and is pursuing opportunities with a growth potential. 1 year survival rates for new firms jump from approximately 78% for firms with up to 9 employees to approximately 95% for firms with 20 to 99 employees. After 4 years, the survival rate jumps from approximately 35 to 40% for firms with fewer than 19 employees to about 55% for firms with 20 to 49 employees. Growth is implicit in entrepreneurship. The entrepreneur's goal often includes expansion and the building of long-term value and durable cash flow streams. However, it takes a long time for new companies to become established and grow. Historically, 2 of every 5 small firms founded survived 6 or more years, but few achieved growth during the first 4 years. That study also found that survival rates more than double for firms that grow, and the earlier in the life of the business that growth occurs, the higher the chance of survival is. The 2003 Inc. magazine 500 exemplifies this with an average growth rate of 1,312%, despite a slow economy. The lesson from these studies is that entrepreneurs need to think big. Don't create a job, build a business. Another notable exception to the failure rule involves businesses that have attracted startup financing from successful private venture capital companies. While venture-backed firms account for a very small percentage of the new firms each year, in 2000 only 5,557 companies received venture capital, 238 of the 414 had initial public offerings in 2000, or 57% had venture backing. An IPO is an important milestone in the development of a company as it gives capital to grow into a major industry player. Clearly, venture capital is not essential to startup. Among the companies that made the 2003 Inc. magazine 500, only 2% raised venture capital. However, companies with venture capital support fare better overall. Only 46 companies with venture capital declared bankruptcy or became defunct in 2000. This is less than 1% of the companies that received venture capital that year. These compelling figures have led some to conclude that there is threshold core of 10% to 15% of the new companies that will become the winners in terms of size, job creation, profitability, innovation, and potential for harvesting, and thereby realize a capital gain. As you plan your business, think of ways to attain these threshold milestones. Does this mean you have to be a venture capital-backed firm to succeed and create wealth? We think not. However, the lessons delivered in this book reflect the high standards of content, format, and presentation that venture capital firms require. By understanding due diligence, intimate involvement in planning, and the intricacies of your deal, you will increase your odds of launching and sustaining a new venture. Lessons from the dot-com meltdown. Although failure rates seem to be relatively stable, there are instances where they become more severe. Furthermore, ignoring the fundamental lessons of entrepreneurship can lead to failure even if a venture achieves many of the threshold criteria discussed above. Take the internet boom and subsequent bust. The creation rate during the late 1990s and the phenomenal, but by 2000 the failure rate had exploded. Through the third quarter of 2002, nearly 900 internet companies had shut down or declared bankruptcy. Several lessons can be learned from the internet debacle. Number 1. Entrepreneurship is hard work that requires both creativity and rigor. Number 2. Too much money is as dangerous as too little. Number 3. The first mover's advantage is an urban legend. So we're going to go through each of these 3 things. So, number one, entrepreneurship is hard work that requires both creativity and rigor. During the boom, entrepreneurs had visions of easy money and quick success. Television, newspaper, magazines highlighted stories of instant billionaires. It seemed that that was necessary was to be young, create a concept and the term internet in it, and go out and seek some capital. The idea didn't have to be original, and how many internet toy companies, pet supply companies, and electronic gadget companies were there? The goal was to spend as much money as possible in hope. It led to an impenetrable market share. Fast growth in internet traffic led to public offerings that create instant paper billionaires and funnel more capital for a company to spend foolishly. What we learned, or relearned, is that entrepreneurship isn't about market share, it's about a strong fundamental business model. That means profits. You can't buy your customers forever or expect undying loyalty just because you gave customers a good deal. You need to have a product or service that customers truly value, something for which they pay a premium. In other words, your product and supporting service need to be some combination of better, cheaper, and faster. We should pause for a moment and explain what we mean by cheaper. Some readers might misconstrue this as a meaning that your product should be priced lower than competition. While this may be a sound strategy, in some cases, most new companies don't have the economies to deliver a lower priced product effectively. Instead, cheaper may mean that you have a cost advantage that adds value for your customers. For instance, Dell's production process is cheaper than that of many of its competitors because Dell doesn't build up large inventories that are stockpiled as retailers in advance of a sale. Instead, Dell adds tremendous value to end users because it can configure a computer the way a customer wants to have it, delivered to their homes or businesses in a matter of days. Dell effectively eliminates the middleman to develop an advantage that is some combination of better, faster, and cheaper. Entrepreneurs need to understand customers and be able to adapt their business to serve their customers better, or they will face quick extinction. The business planning process is one of learning. It is a disciplined approach in which you ask questions, seek answers, and plan for increasingly demanding market tests. Deep understanding and the ability to adapt improve your chances of success. The business planning process helps you move beyond the nascent entrepreneurial stage and survive the new business ownership phase. Number two, too much money is as dangerous as too little. Failed entrepreneurs often cite a lack of capital as a primary reason for a firm's demise. The opposite was true in the internet boom. Venture capitalists eager to invest large sums of money with the prospects of quick liquidity via IPOs poured more money into internet companies than those companies could digest. At the peak in the early 2000s, venture capitalists were pumping $8 million to $15 million per round of investment in early stage deals and a whopping $22 million per round in two later stage deals. Expected to spend that money, many internet entrepreneurs spent foolishly in vain efforts to capture market share. Boo.com spent $130 million in 7 months to launch a fashion website and failed. Webvan blew over $800 million and failed. The excess money insulated those companies from the market test for a while. With huge war chests of cash, those companies could sell their products or even provide their services at a loss and never really knew if they could command a price high enough to generate a profit. Market share was all that mattered because there was going to be some investor, usually the public market, who would pay more than the company was worth. Then conceivably the entrepreneur and the early investors could get their monies out, and in addition to huge returns. Ultimately, those companies destroyed wealth, and few entrepreneurs enjoyed the highly publicized short-term gains. Toby Lenk, the founder of eToys, was worth $850 million on paper the day after his company went public. In part to set an example, and in part because selling a large chunk of his shares would have hurt the overall value of the company. Lenk held almost all his shares until the company went bankrupt. The key is to get enough money to get started, but not so much that your business is insulated from market tests. It's critical to learn early whether your product or service has the potential to earn profits. Your venture needs to answer several questions. In the early iterations of growth, will the customer pay enough for the product so that the firm can be profitable? Will the customer stay loyal to your company or shop around for the best price? How much will it cost to capture the customer in the first place? If your entrepreneurial venture is on the right budget, you learn the answers to these questions quickly. You then have the time to adapt the business so that it answers those questions in the affirmative. Business planning helps you define milestones you need to achieve on your journey toward a sustainable business. Once you identify these milestones, business planning helps you assess how much capital you need to achieve them and when you should raise that capital. Devise your funding strategy around these key milestones. For example, in developing a prototype, you may be able to finance it with your own resources, such as your time and small infusions of your personal cash. After you have a prototype, the next milestone may be to produce and sell your product or service. This may require getting investment from friends and family members. Tying your capital needs to milestones helps you test the concept, see if it passes, and then move toward the next milestone. The third myth, the first mover advantage, which is an urban legend. Having worked with numerous entrepreneurs and student entrepreneurs, we often hear our company will have the first mover advantage. Often that is the sole critical assumption on which the entrepreneurs base their competitive advantage. The truth is that the first mover advantage rarely works in isolation from other competitive advantages. Example upon example illustrates that the first to market is rarely the industry leader in the long run. Apple had the first PDA, the Newton. VisiCalc had the first spreadsheet, but that was supplanted by Lotus 123, which was supplanted by Microsoft Excel. Being first to market does not mean you will own the market. True competitive advantage can be summed up as a combination of faster, cheaper, and better. Most often this occurs within a niche in a larger industry. Take Home Depot. It revolutionized the hardware industry by offering a warehouse of goods that allowed Home Depot to offer better prices because it could get volume discounts from its suppliers. That power increased as suppliers realized that they could move a lot of product through the Home Depot distribution channel. The suppliers accepted lower margins on their products. Home Depot supplemented the advantage by hiring skilled associates who could answer do-it-yourself-first questions. Free clinics on common projects such as building a deck or installing a ceiling fan, supplementing that expertise. That gave Home Depot a better product. Finally, customers knew that Home Depot would have what they needed when they wanted it. Home Depot enabled its customers to do their projects faster. Thus, Home Depot built a powerful competitive advantage based on better, cheaper, and faster. Not every entrepreneur aspires to the size and scale of Home Depot. Even smaller companies need to think about their competitive advantage. For example, if you plan to start a restaurant, you might target higher quality food and atmosphere as your advantage. Based on the traffic, the competition, and other factors in your geographic target, you may build a sustainable competitive advantage. The Blue Ginger in the Wellesley, Massachusetts, has such an advantage. Ming Tsai, the nationally known chef, is the restaurant's founder. Sure, the food is excellent, but Ming Tsai has a reputation that is strengthened by his television show and by the constant exposure in the local and national media. People want to be part of the Ming Tsai experience. The goal of this book is to improve your odds through deep learning. The place to begin is your personal growth. So in this next section, we will talk about understanding yourself, your knowledge, your network, your energy, commitment, passion. And after that, we will talk about the nature of opportunity, the opportunity. And since there is a decent bit more to go and this video has already become long enough, we will continue this second part of the first chapter from understanding yourself in the next video. Thank you for joining.